Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or you're streaming the show on either one of those two stations' streaming apps. And there's so much more than streaming apps. Get news, you can interact with the station, all sorts of fun stuff. And they're free to download and free to use. You can also watch the show on really anywhere you scroll. So we make this program readily available wherever you are. That's the business. We come to you, and I appreciate you tuning in. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics over the course of the program, and as always, I'd love to get your thoughts. You could call or text into the show at 719-247-1313. You can also drop a comment on the live stream that you are watching. Great conversation yesterday, a lot of interaction. Hopefully what I've got for you today elicits some of that same motivation to reach out and to interact. I think at least this first thing will. So Jeff Schwartz, you may have seen this making the rounds on social media. Jeff Schwartz, former NFL offensive lineman, former Oregon Duck, by the way. I think that's worth noting. Was on FS1's First Things First and said this about Bo Nix.
I do think he just is what he is at this point. He looks like the same quarterback he was in college. I watched every one of his snaps at Oregon. He looks exactly the same guy in Denver. He's consistent, right? He's not going to make mistakes, as coach said, but he's not going to push the ball down the field all that often.
So that right there, as you might imagine, elicited some reaction, quite a bit of reaction, actually, including from Sean Payton. Sean Payton took to X on a day where he is not scheduled to speak to the media. Probably felt okay to send off the tweet, given that tomorrow night is their preseason game, and maybe this will all get buried by the game against the Minnesota Vikings. Replied to a video of Jeff Schwartz saying, always easy to tell who works at it and who doesn't. That tweet has been seen 362,000 times, and Jeff Schwartz is getting absolutely killed on social media for claiming that Bo Nix doesn't push the ball down the field, which he is wrong about. The community note on that tweet says that no one has thrown more touchdowns of 20 yards or more over the last 2 years than Bo Nix. And you look at the numbers, and Bo Nix has thrown the ball deep. So that is not correct. Although, because I am nothing if not fair, here comes the Paul Harvey rest of the story. Listen to the entirety of what Jeff Schwartz said and see if you take umbrage with just that part that people are latching onto.
I do think he just is what he is at this point. He looks like the same quarterback he was in college. I watched every one of his snaps at Oregon. He looks exactly the same guy in Denver. He's consistent, right? He's not going to make mistakes, as coach said, but he's not going to push the ball down the field all that often, right? We know his air yards was short. His sort of advanced stats kind of put him right in the middle of the NFL. He gets a bump up because he can run the ball, which is great in certain situations for them. Sean Payton needs to get him to throw the ball in between the hashes. I think he was fifth worst in the NFL, just completion percentage in the middle of the hashes. Like, there's things to work on, but the sort of the issues that, not issues the wrong word to say, it's what he was in college.
Okay. So now that you have the full context, that very next part is important. Jeff Schwartz is not looking at the number of touchdowns that Bo Nix has thrown that have been of 20 yards or more. He's looking at how many yards per attempt Bo Nix throws. He was 22nd last year in the NFL in intended air yards per attempt. He was 30th in the league in completed yards per attempt. And he was also tied for 6th in the NFL in throwaways last year. This while throwing more passes than any other quarterback in the NFL. So this context is important. Bo Nix does throw the ball downfield, but does he throw the ball downfield and throw it downfield effectively, considering that no other quarterback in the league last year threw it more than Bo Nix? If you look at it on a sheer totals basis, you go to Jeff Schwartz and say, hey, what are you talking about? But if you look at it on an average basis, he's actually not wrong. He's 22nd in the league last year in the amount of yards he throws the ball. So he doesn't consistently push it downfield, and that was Jeff Schwartz's point. It's not that Bo Nix never throws it downfield. It's that he doesn't throw the ball downfield as much for someone who throws the ball as much as Bo Nix. The fact of the matter is, and there's a whole piece in The Athletic about this, written by Nick Kosmider, terrific Broncos writer for The Athletic, talking about the entire Broncos formula being get sacks and don't get sacked. Sean Payton's whole idea with Bo Nix the last 2 years has been to be quite conservative in the pass game. The numbers say that Bo Nix is one of the more conservative quarterbacks in the league. So he actually doesn't push the ball down the field that often. So for Sean Payton to be the one, and first things first, whoever runs their social media account did him no favors, because the first clip I played you was the quote that FS1 put on their Twitter account. So if you don't click the video and watch it the whole way through, as I think Sean Payton did not, you're going to seize onto something that lacks context, such as the issue with social media these days. But the fact of the matter is, Bo Nix, for as much as he throws the football, which is to say all the time, he doesn't actually throw it downfield that much. And if you dig deeper and look into his numbers on deep passing plays, he's not that great either. The percentage of his passes that travel 20 yards or more ranks 8th in the NFL. So again, yes, he pushes the ball downfield, but who is Bo Nix? It's timely throws down the field. But all in all, it's a very conservative, quick, short pass game. And to get into Jeff Schwartz's bigger point, which is a point that I have held for a long time, and I've talked about this in recent days, this idea that there's not that much more to Bo Nix than what you have already seen. And you could like that or you could not like that, but that's up to you. But I don't think there's much more here for Bo Nix, and that's the point that Jeff Schwartz is making. Bo Nix is not among the top 15 quarterbacks in the league when it comes to CPOE, which is completion over expected. So a lot of the throws that Bo Nix does complete are graded out as easier throws. And he was 23rd in the NFL last year in completion percentage. Not the only stat we look at, but it seems like a fairly important stat. And for the idea that Bo Nix isn't that much different than he was a year ago, or 2 years ago, I should say, from year one to year two, his completion percentage down 3%. His yards with his attempts, as you might imagine, have gone up. His yards less than 200 more than he had during his rookie year. He threw 4 fewer touchdowns and 1 fewer interception. He took 2 fewer sacks. His quarterback rating was down 6 points. And his rushing numbers were down. All this while adding about 40 or 50 more pass attempts this season as opposed to the one before it. So that tells you 2 things. One, Bo Nix last year, despite all the late game heroics, and that has to be taken into account a little bit, right? It absolutely does. But the sheer numbers, looking at the bigger picture, Bo Nix statistically was worse than he was in his rookie season. But yet the Broncos won more, which goes to a quarterback that is an extension of his team rather than leading his team. Right? Like a Mahomes, an Allen, a Lamar, etc. But those numbers also tell you, with a slight variance from one year to the next, he was pretty close to the same quarterback. Right? Little bit down, but pretty much the same, which is what Jeff Schwartz is saying. Bo Nix hasn't evolved, hasn't gotten better from one year to the next, and he doubts, as I do, that we're going to see a huge jump from Bo Nix this year. And what I have been saying is you have to decide whether the Bo Nix you have seen over the past 2 years is good enough for the Denver Broncos to win a Super Bowl. Because you're not going to get that much different. And as far as the Jalen Waddle addition, which should help, how are they going to use him? How are they going to use him the most? You saw it. You saw it against Green Bay. The one pass that Jalen Waddle caught was a short route that Bo Nix was able to get rid of the ball quickly, and it was Jalen Waddle doing the rest of the work. Now, that as a byproduct will help Bo Nix's numbers a little bit, but it also shows me that Davis Webb might not have a vastly different view of how Bo Nix can be most effective. I mean, we're all grasping at breadcrumbs right now. That's all we're getting. But here's Jalen Waddle's big debut. Here's his one play. And it's Jalen Waddle beating his man off the line immediately, and Bo Nix also immediately getting rid of the football, which has essentially been what Sean Payton has asked Bo Nix to do over these last 2 years. None of this is to say that Bo Nix is a bad quarterback. But that's the problem when you talk about Bo Nix, and I've been saying Bo Nix has now entered the same space that Nikola Jokic used to occupy. And I can tell you the thing about Nikola Jokic that really fired people up, and they got really upset about it, his defense. The fact of the matter is Nikola Jokic is not a good individual defender. He doesn't protect the rim, and he's not good on the ball. He operates decently within a bigger unit with some of his deflections, but the fact of the matter is Nikola Jokic is not a good defender, but he does so many other things. It's the same thing with Bo Nix. Whenever anybody says Bo Nix isn't the best at this, everybody freaks out. Instead of just saying, well, maybe he is not the best at this, but look at what else he does. Look at how the Denver Broncos right now is currently constructed. Look how much they have won with him. And it's just, it's not enough to just say the Broncos with Bo Nix are a Super Bowl contender. It has to be Bo Nix is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league, and the Denver Broncos are Super Bowl contenders. I'm sorry, though, that's not the case. Only one of those things is true. And it's fine. It's fine until it's not fine. Ask San Francisco. What Brock Purdy has been fine until it's not, which is the Super Bowl. But who are they going to get that's better? And we're going to have that conversation in the next couple of years when Bo Nix is due for a big extension. And when he signs it, we'll go, okay, well, was there somebody better? And there probably won't be, because NFL teams tend to hang on to very good quarterbacks. Bo Nix is good. He's not great. And the Bo Nix you have seen these last couple of years is going to be very similar to the one you see this year. But does Jalen Waddle's addition make the Broncos offense and Bo Nix that much better, along with the other improvements they have made? And does that get them over the hump into the Super Bowl and maybe win it? That's what we're all trying to find out. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on Jeff Schwartz's comments now that you have the full context of it. Do you still side with Sean Payton, or do you side with Sean Payton and think that Jeff Schwartz doesn't know what he's talking about? By the way, I'll bring this back. Jeff Schwartz, an Oregon Duck. Watched every one of Bo Nix's games at Oregon. In my experience, if you are from a school and you are going to get on national television and critique or criticize someone else that went to your school, you got to have a lot of conviction about it. Right? This is duck on duck crime that was perpetrated on national television. Jeff Schwartz has to feel pretty strongly in what he says to be able to go against the Oregon family, and I think he's onto something. I think he's right. When you take everything into account, I think there's more truth than fiction that Jeff Schwartz was saying on FS1. 719-247. 1313, just getting going on this Thursday edition of the show. Glad to have you here on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. 719-247-1313 is the number if you want to jump aboard. Started the show, if you're just joining us, with Jeff Schwartz's comments on FS1 about Bo Nix, that people latched on to the idea that Bo Nix doesn't throw the ball downfield, and there are numbers to say that Bo Nix has done that. However, I would argue that he does not throw the ball downfield as much as someone who leads the NFL in pass attempts would throw downfield. His effectiveness downfield puts him even further down the list. And overall, as a quarterback, and the bigger point that Jeff Schwartz was making is that Bo Nix has not improved from one year to the next. And that is true. And he doesn't see that Bo Nix in year 3 is going to be wildly different than the Bo Nix you have seen, which I also agree with. Couple of your texts. This one from the 719. He's exactly right about Nix. He is what he is. He is at his ceiling. I'd like to see, he's getting close. Like I said, I do want to see the impact of Waddle, which I do think is going to help Bo Nix's numbers. But that's why, looking at things on a percentage basis, an average basis, is better than the sheer numbers sometimes. Because, again, no one in the NFL threw the ball more last year than Bo Nix. So the sheer numbers should be higher in a lot of different categories. But even the numbers aren't the be-all, end-all. Watch with your eyes and see what you think about Bo Nix this year. This from Chris. Bo Nix has entered the Josh Allen world. Someone will say Josh Allen is the greatest quarterback playing, while someone else will say, but he hasn't won a Super Bowl. He turns the ball over too much. No matter his comeback wins, his touchdown runs, his throwing numbers, it's always, yeah, but. I think that was certainly a part of the conversation with Josh Allen. I think it was. Josh Allen was just named the best quarterback of the decade on ESPN over Patrick Mahomes, who has won Super Bowls, has been to more than that. He's won a couple. He's been to 2 more. He's won the same amount of MVPs as Josh Allen, yet Josh Allen was viewed as the best quarterback of the 2020s by Bill Barnwell of ESPN. Many people will say Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the National Football League, and I actually think that he doesn't get enough heat for the way he performed against the Broncos in the playoffs last year. Now, before that, it was Josh Allen with a Herculean effort and his coach and his team letting him down. Last year, it was Josh Allen letting down Josh Allen. So I don't know that that's so much of the conversation regarding Josh Allen now. But if it is but he hasn't won a Super Bowl, that's a different level of but than what we're talking about with Bo Nix. The but he hasn't won a Super Bowl is Josh Allen the best quarterback in the league? Is he the best quarterback of the decade? Detractors will bring that up, as I wouldn't label myself a detractor of Josh Allen, but I just brought that up. That the guy that he was picked above went to 4 Super Bowls, won 2 of them, and has the same amount of MVPs over that time as Josh Allen does. But the but with Bo Nix is he's good, but like they're operating at 2 different levels in the NFL conversation right now. I mean, we're still kind of having the debate of whether he's a franchise quarterback or not. Aren't we kind of still there? A lot of quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson is another one. Joe Burrow, yeah, but he's hurt. Lamar Jackson, yeah, but he's never been to a Super Bowl. We're debating whether Bo Nix deserves to be in the conversation of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Because the same people who are taking Jeff Schwartz to task on social media are the same people that think that Bo Nix is already a top 5 quarterback, which there's just no metric to prove. There's nothing. There's no eyeball test. There's no number to prove that he is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. I don't even think that exists to make him a top 10 quarterback in the league. But when you have one of the, 3 to 5 best rosters in the NFL, do you need somebody like the Cincinnati Bengals, for all of their shortcomings, need Joe Burrow? You could argue that in years past, the Bills absolutely need Josh Allen, and without Josh Allen, they'd be nowhere. I would make the argument that if, with more than a week prep time over the longer term and not just a short sample size being one game that happened to be the AFC Championship, the Broncos could be not that wildly different of a football team with someone other than Bo Nix as their starting quarterback. Would they be as good? No. And that's why we're talking about with Bo Nix, they probably go to the Super Bowl last year. And with Bo Nix, maybe they have enough to get to the Super Bowl this year. Not saying they'd be better. I just don't know that they'd be wildly worse given what the game plan with Bo Nix has been over the last 2 years. Now, I will say this. What's one of the things that we have been imploring the Denver Broncos to do with Bo Nix? Use his legs. If Davis Webb, maybe in the passing game, Davis Webb is not that much different than Sean Payton, but can he be different in the run game? Can he allow Bo Nix to use his legs more? Now this is an additional dimension, and he already has it, to put him over your average NFL quarterback for sure. But are we going to see him unleashed and be like one of the best running quarterbacks in the league, or one of the best quarterbacks with their legs in the league? That's a conversation where Bo Nix might have the chance to not just be in the top 10, but creep towards the top 5, right? But have we seen enough? We've seen enough to say we think maybe there's more here, but we haven't seen enough to put him there quite yet. And that's where I am on this, is if the only path for Bo Nix to be well within the top 10, threaten to be a top 5 quarterback, his ticket is his legs, not his arm. If we're talking about ceiling, I think he's very close to his ceiling as a thrower of the football. I think he's further away from his ceiling as a runner with the football. Will Davis Webb let us see that? Let us test this theory. That's what we're all waiting to find out. Bo Nix against the Green Bay Packers did not run the football. He rolled out. He went on a couple of bootlegs, showed his mobility, but we didn't see him run. (719) 24/7 1313. This a top 5 QB exclamation point question mark. That's hilarious. He's maybe the 15th best, and that's a big maybe. He has been very fortunate and lucky to have won a lot of the games he's gotten in his career so far, which brings up another big storyline for this upcoming season. Broncos in 1-score games. Real, sustainable. No 1-score games in the preseason yet. So we haven't, maybe tomorrow night against Minnesota, it'll be a 1-score game, although Bo Nix isn't playing. So strike that. We'll have to wait for the regular season in order to see that. But I did this the other day when I was talking about how when people aren't totally buying into the Denver Broncos the way that Broncos fans would like, I'm saying it's Bo Nix. It really is. It's Bo Nix. That's the reason. Just boil it down, brass tacks, bottom line, it's Bo Nix. The people who aren't going all in on Denver are not huge believers in Bo Nix. And I said, just look at the quarterbacks in the AFC. The AFC alone, how many of them would you take over Bo Nix? I had Mahomes and Herbert in the West, Burrow and Lamar in the North, Allen and May in the East. That already puts him as, at best, the 7th best quarterback in the AFC. We haven't even brought up Caleb, Jaden, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff. So he's going to go down. But just in his own conference, he's at best 7th, and that's not even looking at the AFC South and how you might feel about Trevor Lawrence or CJ Stroud. You're just not. If you want to tell me that Bo Nix is good enough with everything else the Broncos have, coaching the best offensive line in the NFL, the best corner in the NFL, best pass rusher in the NFL, and you want to add all those things up and say with Bo Nix that team is capable of winning a Super Bowl, I'm all ears. But the Broncos aren't a Super Bowl contender for the same reason the Bills are, the Ravens are, the Chiefs are. Right? It starts with their quarterback. That's why you put them in. Joe Burrow, another one. That's why you put them initially in the Super Bowl contender category. With the Broncos, it's almost everything else you see, yeah, Super Bowl quality, and then you look at Bo Nix and go, okay, is that on the same level? This from the one more text from the 719. I would take both Lawrence and Stroud over Nix. I think they're all very, and I will say this, and I've been fair about this when it comes to the other guys in the 2024 class. Like, it can fluctuate. Right? May had the season he had, which was a phenomenal season. And by the way, if you want to talk about quarterbacks that can throw the deep ball and that push it downfield, Drake May is your guy out of this draft class, not Bo Nix. But I'm open to the possibility that after this season is over, Bo Nix could potentially be better than Drake May. I'm not betting on it, but we've seen one good year out of May, out of Caleb, and out of Jaden Daniels. And those 3 seasons, which for Jaden Daniels was his rookie year, for Caleb and Drake it was last year, are better than the best season of the 2 for Bo Nix. But that's all they have. Bo Nix has 2 good years of football. Not great, but good. He does have that going for him. That's why I find this year to be so fascinating, because Caleb, we got 1 terrible year, 1 great year. Jaden Daniels, we have 1 terrible year because of injury, 1 great year. With Drake May, we just didn't really have a first year. And then last year, he did what he did. I mean, we're all talking about as we stand right now and what we think is going to happen. But even if you take Drake May out of the equation, that's still putting him 6th in his own conference. a great quarterback conference. I will grant you that. But this is the conversation that people want to have. They want to compare Bo Nix to those other guys, and then he just doesn't. 719 24/7 13-13. One more record prediction. They'll finish 8-9. They were incredibly fortunate last year. It was a literally historic season they had. That's never happened before. They won't repeat that. I will say that I'm not that low on the Denver Broncos. I got them winning more than 8 games. I still think this team has every ability to be in the postseason. Beyond that is where I seem to break rank with a lot of people. 719 24/7 13-13. Let's continue the conversation next. It's time to fly with our iFly sweet deal of the week. Experience the thrill of indoor skydiving at iFly Colorado Springs and feel the rush of soaring through the air with no plane required. You get 2 flights for just $43.50. That is a 50% savings if you log on to either 740 or to kvor.com or extrasports1300.com tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The Bo Nix conversation is, as if it ever goes away, has now bubbled back to the surface, come to the forefront with Jeff Schwartz making the comments that he did on First Things First the other day to lead Sean Payton today to reply to the tweet and go after Jeff Schwartz, saying always easy to tell who works at it and who doesn't. That was from Sean Payton's Twitter account. Let's get a couple of your thoughts in here. John from right here in Colorado Springs says, I respectfully disagree with much of the criticism of Nix. Cortland Sutton is very overrated. You and I are simpatico on that. Tight ends terrible and receivers not catching balls last year. I witnessed this. Long balls were barely off, which is due to the passer, but also the catcher. I feel like you will see the numbers go up. And in the vein of being fair, there was only one quarterback in the National Football League whose receivers dropped the ball more than Bo Nix's did. And it was Trevor Lawrence. So, and I do think that's a little bit where the hope is here, is that if with Jalen Waddle, a more sure-handed wide receiver, that it will help those. But you can't put all your eggs into that basket. If you took out all of the drops, which is impossible, right? But it's just, I mean, how do you gauge? If the Broncos are down 50%, 75%, 33%, what's the agreeable number? But let's just say every receiver Bo Nix throws the ball to catches it next year. No drops. Yes, he would be the leading passer in the NFL. That's not a fruitful exercise. I'm looking at some of the numbers. If every pass was caught, he would complete 71.5% of his passes. He'd throw for 4,400 yards. It's just not feasible. It's not feasible, especially when Cortland Sutton's still on the team, Evan Ingram's still on the team, Pat Bryant, Lil Jordan Humphrey. Like, yeah, there's Jalen Waddle. He's the different one, but everyone else is pretty much the same. But is that how you feel? Do you feel like Bo Nix is getting criticism because, and this is where you want to get a Josh Allen type conversation going, does he not have the skill position players required to be elite? Is that what's holding him back? I think if you reasonably expect the Broncos to be better and not be the second worst team in the NFL, let's say they're middle of the road, I still don't think you're talking about Bo Nix being a top 5 quarterback in the league. And there's 3 different conversations going on. The one I'm trying to have is Bo Nix is good. He's not elite. He's just not an elite quarterback. But the conversation, as so often is the case on social media, is Bo is God's gift to quarterbacking or he's terrible. And I, once again, find myself in the middle, and it's a hard place to be because I just want to say I like him. I don't love him. Right? You ever try to be fixed up with somebody and you're like, I like them. There's some good things, but I don't love them. I don't want to pursue a long-term relationship with this person. They're not my ideal match. So stop trying to force them on me. That's kind of how I feel right now when it comes to Bo Nix. And how many people that were trying to be, where my friends were trying to fix me up with them, that's what they said a lot. In the dating world, I am Bo Nix. A lot of good about me. Not great, not elite. And women out there are looking for elite, you know? We as consumers of the NFL want elite. There is one position that we hold in higher regard than any other, and it's quarterbacking. We have, maybe you might argue, an impossible standard. But we got to raise our standards somewhere. And that is the position in a league where everything is tailored for quarterbacks to have success. Everything. The coaching, the rules, everything is tailored to getting the best out of the quarterbacks. And what you have seen these first 2 years is that Bo Nix is a top 15 quarterback, and you can't go much higher than that based on these first 2 years. We'll see what he is in year 3. This from the 719. I remember a young John Elway in his first 2 years who was a very average quarterback. That's all I'm saying. 2 things that I would say, and your historical recollection is absolutely spot on. I will tell you that John Elway was exponentially more gifted than Bo Nix. John Elway is one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks that have ever walked planet Earth. He has more tools than Bo Nix does. So the best thing you could say about Bo Nix's future prospects is he can be a poor man's John Elway. But come on, this is number 7 we're talking about. This is basically a deity in Colorado sports. Bo Nix doesn't have the physical tools that John Elway did. And part of what Jeff Schwartz's argument is, and my argument, is that these quarterbacks, and Bo Nix is the gold standard when it comes to this, they have played so much freaking football in the college ranks that they are more ready to go. They do not need to bake in an oven over years. You can pop them in the microwave. They're good to go. We're talking about Fernando Mendoza. Fernando Mendoza looks to me like he's ready to be week 1 starter for the Las Vegas Raiders. These guys are more ready for the NFL than they have ever been. It's why Jaden Daniels was insane his rookie year. It's why Caleb Williams, with the simple change of getting a competent head coach, all of a sudden looked like a world beater. These guys are ready to go. But the other side of that, and yes, I talk about Bo Nix more than anybody, but I extend this to Drake May, into Jaden Daniels, into Caleb Williams. I don't know that you're going to see any of these guys improve leaps and bounds from here on out. I really don't believe that. I mean, I believe that. I don't believe that we're going to see this jump from any one of those 3 guys. We saw the jump. And I believe it's the same way with Bo Nix. But Bo Nix played more college football than any quarterback that has ever come out in the draft. How much more actually is there to a guy that played as much college football and has now had 2 full seasons in the National Football League? Bo Nix has played so much football. I don't know that there's a jump coming. Brett says John Elway might have gotten better faster if Dan Reeves wasn't his coach. That is also very historically accurate. Dan Reeves, believed by many to be holding John Elway back. And here's the Sophie's choice of quarterback questions. And I knew it was going to come from Josiah. What up, Josiah? Would you rather have Bo Nix or Jalen Hurts? Don't do this to me. But this is the line. This is right where These two guys. It's a pick 'em. I'll with what I've seen Jalen Hurts do in the Super Bowl, I think you have to give the nod to Jalen Hurts. But the conversations that we have about Bo Nix are very similar to the ones we have about Jalen Hurts. You like him, you don't love him until he plays in a Super Bowl, and then you love him. So for that reason, I'll take Jalen Hurts over Bo Nix, but it's a pick 'em. Jalen Hurts is the NFC version of Bo Nix and vice versa. I wish I could do better, but it's good enough for what I have. More after this. Welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Whether you're listening to the show, Extra Sports 1300 or 740 KVOR, we got apps for both of those stations that you can stream the show. Superior technology, if I'm being honest about it. And then you can, of course, watch the show anywhere you scroll. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram, at Extra Sports 1300, at 740 KVOR. If you would like to follow me on those social media platforms, I am at Gingerly Tweets on X and at Gingewatch on Instagram. There's a Bronco game tomorrow night. It's against the Minnesota Vikings. Bo Nix isn't playing, which certainly decreases the interest for most people, and I don't blame them for that. There are some storylines for tomorrow night, most certainly, and we'll discuss those. But I think this is a license for us to look forward, right? Can we look forward to week one? I think we're there. Like beginning of August, July, like that's crazy talk. We're at the end of almost the end of August. We got one preseason game left. Bo Nix isn't even going to play in it. Who knows how many other starters don't play. Can we look forward to week one? It's a rhetorical question because I'm going to talk about week one. And I think the big question for the Broncos week one is whether they're going to have Jonathan Cooper. That storyline kind of went by the wayside a little bit as we had games and other things occupying our time. But now the Jonathan Cooper situation is coming back to center stage. Monday, he will be in court again. And what comes of that and what comes of the NFL's decision of what to do with Jonathan Cooper is certainly of interest to you, and it's of interest to Sean Payton.
I don't know. In other words, I don't know. And you would always, you would always want clarity, but I think we'll find out soon, and you'll find out probably right when I do.
Now, Mike Kliss wrote yesterday that it was kind of a reminder that the NFL doesn't actually have to. I mean, it is a punishment, but it's not a suspension, right? We're all kind of waiting. Will Jonathan Cooper be suspended? But there's this other like NFL disciplinary purgatory that you can live in called the commissioner's exempt list. You can't play, but you get paid. And Mike Kliss wrote, like, remember, that could be something that the NFL does. Now, they're a little bit backed up at the NFL office, unfortunately. Josh Jacobs, they have not come down on his situation. They haven't done anything with Puka Nacua yet. So they got a backlog. And could Roger Goodell just say, you know what, all of these guys are on the exempt list, which would make Jonathan Cooper unavailable for week one, or they could suspend him, which makes Jonathan Cooper unavailable for week one. Or if the Broncos don't have any clarity, they might, to allow themselves to protect another player from getting stolen away, they could move Cooper off the 53-man roster and put him on the reserve list, which would mean he wouldn't play week one. But it would allow them to open up another roster spot to protect one of the guys that they don't want to risk losing as they try to pass him through to the practice squad. But protecting one player, player number 53 in the minds of the Denver Broncos, pales in comparison to the impact of being without Jonathan Cooper. And with as big of a game as this is being billed, right? Monday night, Broncos, Chiefs in Arrowhead, Knicks, Mahomes. It's a divisional game. Do you want Jonathan Cooper on that field? I mean, there's no doubt that the Broncos are better and have a better chance to win on Monday night, if they have Jonathan Cooper. But I don't want to ask the question of, do you want Jonathan Cooper for that game? Because that carries a different context with it. As it sits right now, I don't think Jonathan Cooper plays week one way or another. It just seems like of all the possible outcomes, most of them are Jonathan Cooper not playing week one. So that's where I will lean. But as in the dark as Sean Payton is, so am I. Perhaps the NFL is waiting to see how Jonathan Cooper's court proceeding goes. But again, the problem is cut down day is Sunday. If they want to open up another roster spot to protect somebody from getting poached, they got to make a decision on Jonathan Cooper. So if the NFL is waiting for the next step in the legal proceedings, the Broncos got to make a decision before that. Now, none of this is woe is anybody, especially Jonathan Cooper. Jonathan Cooper put himself and the Broncos in this position. So I guess it's woe the Denver Broncos a little bit. But, like, this is a bigger deal than a game against the Kansas City Chiefs, what Jonathan Cooper is dealing with, right? We can all agree on this. So we'll see. NFL has this knack of coming in at the 11th hour and just going, boom, here's what we think on the subject. Like, who saw the Pro Bowl thing coming yesterday? I didn't. And the NFL is just like, oh, by the way, Pro Bowl games are done. Like, what? So we could have something similar play out this weekend where it's looking like, man, this is not going to be resolved. And then the NFL on Saturday night goes, Jonathan Cooper on the commissioner's exempt list, or Jonathan Cooper suspended, and then the Broncos can make a decision based on that. But as of right now, I would expect Jonathan Cooper not to play week one. But I'm not entirely sure that they'll need him. Allow me to explain. We're getting closer to week one, and Patrick Mahomes has not been given a clean bill of health. This is Andy Reid speaking about the status of his franchise quarterback.
Listen, he's doing great. We'll just see. I'm literally taking it day by day. There are no predictions here on anything, but if the doctors and the trainers and everybody that are involved with this give him an okay, then and then most of all, if he feels like he can, then we'll address that when we get there.
Okay. So we still have time, right, for Patrick Mahomes to be cleared. But at what point do you look at it and go, yeah, week one, we're getting too close here. If we're the Chiefs, we got to pivot. We got to get somebody else ready to play. Is that maybe that's the week of the game? If Patrick Mahomes is not cleared and this isn't, week 15 in a divisional game where playoff hopes are on the line. This is week one. So my thought is, if Patrick Mahomes, just as far as his health goes, if he's not cleared by the week of the Monday before the Monday night game against the Broncos, get somebody else ready. Garrett Nussmeier, the rookie from LSU, is going to play the entirety of the Chiefs' final preseason game tomorrow night against Seattle. Is there a different QB2 in Kansas City? I don't know that my heart can take such news. But if he's not clear by the Monday before, It's week one. It's week one. I know it's an important game, but it's one. And you get the Broncos a few weeks after that at Mile High with the chance to even that mark because yes, I would expect the Denver Broncos to go in and beat the Kansas City Chiefs if Patrick Mahomes isn't playing, with or without Jonathan Cooper. But here's the other part that the Chiefs have to keep in mind. So Mahomes, we're sitting here on August 27th, and Patrick Mahomes has not been cleared medically. Okay? Trey Smith, the Chiefs' best offensive lineman, just returned to practice from injury. And Josh Simmons, who's going to be their left tackle, is injured. So it's not just how Mahomes is feeling. As much as Andy Reid says that, it shouldn't really be about just how Mahomes is feeling. How's your offensive line doing? Because Jonathan Cooper or no Jonathan Cooper, Nick Bonitto's still going to be on the field. Zach Allen's still going to be on the field. If Mahomes, and what's the percentage? If Mahomes is 70%, 80%, and you have a banged up Trey Smith and no Josh Simmons to go against the Broncos pass rush, like you gotta look at the big picture, Andy Reid. It was always going to be an aggressive timeline for Patrick Mahomes to be back for week one after he tore both ligaments in his knee in December. The fact that it's even a question is great news. It really is. It's great news, and the Chiefs don't have to be without Patrick Mahomes for very long, if at all. But if Patrick Mahomes is less than 100%, and you got your best two offensive linemen banged up on an offensive line that's not that good to begin with, and you're facing the best pass rushing team outside of Houston in the National Football League, I don't like that. It's a long season. What's the old saying? You can't win anything in September, but you can lose something. You could lose Patrick Mahomes. I know we all want to see Mahomes versus Knicks, but if the Chiefs' health situation does not progress well in the next week or two, I think Andy Reid's got to pull the plug. And what becomes fascinating here is you look, they get Indy at home right after that. They go to Miami and to Vegas, and then they have a bye week. I don't love the Chiefs' chances week one with the Broncos coming in, but Colts, Miami, and the Raiders after that? Could they Justin Fields or Garrett Nussmeier themselves into, at worst, a 2-2 record going into the bye week, which is another week for Patrick Mahomes to get ready? Like, I think it's a moot point if Mahomes is cleared and the two offensive linemen are good to go, then it's a moot point. But there's a path here where you go, all right, maybe it's not the best idea to throw them out week one, and here comes week two, and you're getting the Colts at home. All right, maybe there's still some temptation because of how dynamic their offense was last year. Maybe you want to have Mahomes out there, okay? But maybe he's not good to go yet. Now you got Miami and Vegas. Why even bother? You got bye week. So this is, and trust me, once we get past these final preseason games, Mahomes' health is going to be like the conversation. I'm just getting ahead of the curve here. As somebody who speaks with the best for the Chiefs at heart, if it's a question and if he's not A-okay and he doesn't have his best two protectors, I'm not playing him. You got to look at the bigger picture. but it'll be something to monitor. Now, the Jonathan Cooper thing is more than a week one thing, right? And we know how difficult the Broncos' schedule is, including that Chiefs game to start the year. But if the Chiefs don't have Mahomes and the Broncos don't have Jonathan Cooper, who wins that? It's obviously the Denver Broncos. And since we're talking week one, I'll throw out a little prediction for you. Regardless of everything I just said, put whoever you want on the field for both the Broncos and the Chiefs. I think the Broncos are going to Arrowhead and winning week one. There's too many question marks regarding the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Like they got a plethora of rookies playing important positions. They got a quarterback that even if he can play, we know Mahomes is not going to be at his best week one. I don't believe that. The guy hasn't played at all in the preseason. He's coming off of tearing 2 tendons in his knee. I don't expect Patrick Mahomes to look like the Patrick Mahomes of old week one, to say nothing of the defense he's going to be facing on that Monday night. Plus, you got 2 offensive linemen a little bit banged up. There's just a lot of questions around this Kansas City team, and I can't come right out of the chute as much as you would maybe like me to, so you could argue with me. I can't come out and say I'm going to take the Chiefs week one. I can't. Now, as far as the season, the longer term, I'm still deciding whether I like the Chiefs longer term over the Denver Broncos. But in week one, everything I'm seeing and hearing out of Kansas City, I do not like Kansas City week one. 719-247-1313. Get your week one thoughts. We're close enough. Come on. Broncos starting with the win or not? 719-247-1313. Coming up next, Cale Makar's extension coming in the immediate future. And it's supposedly a biggie. Talk about that next. Word on the street is that a Cale Makar extension is coming very soon. So I refreshed the timeline right before I came back on. We are officially on Cale watch and expect a deal done to get done in the very near future. Now, what is not up for debate is whether Cale Makar will become the highest paid defenseman in NHL history. He will far surpass that. If Cale Makar, out of the goodness of his heart, and I know Cale Makar's a great dude, but if he, out of the goodness of his own heart, says, you know what, I'm going to take less than Bo Byram took with the Chicago Blackhawks, I will find a hat, I don't have one, and I will eat it. There is zero chance that Cale Makar, once he signs his extension, is not the highest paid defenseman in the history of the National Hockey League. That's not up for debate. Like Matthew McConaughey says on The Gentleman, like the salt and pepper shakers, it's not on the table. Elliot Friedman has one well-respected NHL insider says that this deal will be a, quote, biggie, end quote. What does this mean? Well, I will tell you. It means that it's either the average annual value of Cale Makar's contract is either going to start with a 2 or it's going to start with a 1 and have a very big number right next to it. He is going to obliterate his former teammates' average annual value, as he should. Let me just get this in here before I continue. Cale Makar has the right to ask for every penny. Cale Makar can demand to become the highest paid player in the NHL. He absolutely has that. Did you watch the series against Las Vegas? The Avalanche cannot function without Cale Makar on the team. They must sign him and they must pay him whatever he is asking for or whatever he ends up asking for. I'm all for negotiations. Give him a number, doesn't like the number, he counters, you go back and forth. But ultimately, when Cale says, this is the number, you say, okay, let's put pen to paper. There is no player on the Colorado Avalanche more important than Cale Makar. And by extension, there may be no player in the NHL more important than Cale Makar. That's a little bit more crowded of a field, as is the Avs, really, because Nathan McKinnon's sitting right there. But, I mean, what happened against Vegas, it was right there in front of your face. Like, how could you not, the light bulb not come on and go, oh, this guy's the most important guy on the team? Maybe not leaps and bounds over Nathan McKinnon, but Cale's number one. It's 1A and 1B. Sure. Cale's 1A. He gets whatever he wants after you do your due diligence and try to negotiate him down. And I do believe that Cale Makar is going to take less than he could have. I believe that. I'm not going to criticize him if he doesn't, but I believe that he will. Now, what could complicate that in another aspect of this extension that's very interesting? What if Cale doesn't, Joe Sakic said the September 16th deadline, which would be the deadline to offer Cale Makar an 8-year deal, is not that important to him. And then naturally your mind goes to, okay, 7 or 8, really what's the difference? In 2039 or whatever, I know math is not my strong suit. I don't care about, we'll deal with, now Cale's due to be a free agent because he only signed a 7-year deal instead of an 8-year deal. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay. The Avalanche should have at least one more Stanley Cup before we get there, which would change our perspective on things, I think. But what if it's not 7 or 8. What if Cale Makar, in his infinite wisdom, goes, I'm not yet 30? The salary cap's going up and up and up. What if I decide to re-enter the free agent pool in 3 or 4 years while still becoming the highest paid player? That might, if it's a 3 or 4 year deal, that's where the first number of the average annual value is going to be a 2. Because if you're Cale and you're going to go a 3 or 4 year deal, you got to maximize the average annual value because you're taking a little bit of a risk, right? So if the years go down, the average annual value's got to go up. But if you're going to sign a deal for 7, 8 years, then maybe that's where you're willing to bring the dollar amount down on an average annual value basis, because obviously you're going to make more over the life of the contract. I don't think that Cale Makar is going to do that, because that would, again, be quite a bit of risk that he's undertaking in a sport where he just got done not being able to play for his team in the Western Conference Final because he was hurt. So I don't think he's going to do that. And I also, in thinking that Cale Makar is going to help out the Avs a skosh, Cale only being on a 3 or 4 year deal would put the Avalanche in a bit of a bind. Right? I think they absolutely want to have him locked up for 7 years. So I don't think that's going to be the result here, but it is an interesting thing to think about. At Cale's age and where the salary cap is going, could he decide to take a shorter term deal in order to still in his prime cash in one more time? And that's going to be the longest deal that he can get that would carry him through the rest of his prime and into the back half of his career. I think it will be 7 or 8, and I think it will be 18-5 to 19. With no inside knowledge, that's what I'm going to go with. But the big news is, or the big report, Cale Makar's extension is imminent. So we'll keep an eye on things. 719-24-7-1313. Coming up next, Colorado Springs, one of the most unique sports cities in America. I have called it before, and it's further fortifying that with a huge sporting event that's now going to be a Colorado Springs staple. We'll talk about it next on Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR. Welcome back. You know, we here in Colorado Springs get some pretty incredible sporting events coming through here on an annual, semi-annual basis, and it just fortifies something that I've said for a long time, that Colorado Springs is one of the most unique sports cities in America, and I mean unique in a great way, because we get events like the ones that the Colorado Springs Sports Corporation help put on, bring in, facilitate, all that kind of stuff. And we got another one announced today. Joining me now to discuss from the Sports Corp is Rands Kiesler. Rands, good to have you. How are you today?
I'm good, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's my pleasure. So I don't want to, you can tell it much better than I can. What have we got coming to Colorado Springs?
Yeah, I am so excited to announce that Colorado Springs will be hosting the 2027 World Lacrosse Sixes Championship next year at Widener Field.
That's amazing. And that is obviously in conjunction with the fact that lacrosse is going to be an Olympic sport in 2028. And this will serve as a qualifier, yes, that the teams that are competing in this will go to LA?
Yeah, so lacrosse has not been in the Olympics in over 100 years, and it is coming back this year. This championship will be the qualifier for LA 2028 Olympics. So all the teams that will come and compete, the ones that qualify this will be part of their road to the Olympics.
And is this the end of their qualification road? Yeah. So this is the event, and the teams are going on to LA, huh?
Yeah, so we'll have 32 national teams coming to Colorado Springs, 16 men and 6 women's. Will be participating in the event from all across the world. And then 5 of the 6 teams for each gender will be determined for who will qualify for LA 2028.
So how did this, I mean, I got to imagine having Olympic City, USA out in front is a good place for all of these Olympic events to look at. But, you know, how did this come together? Is this you guys reaching out to lacrosse, U.S. lacrosse, or is U.S. lacrosse come to you guys? How did this all come together?
Yeah, this was definitely a bunch of community partners coming together and showing that Olympic City, USA is the best place for World Lacrosse to come, or for this national championship to come to do a qualifier event. So we had World Lacrosse and Colorado Springs Sports Corporation are partnering up to produce this event. And then we absolutely have to thank other partners like Widener Field and Switchbacks, who are helping us by giving us a location and a venue to host the event.
Do you think, and it's a hypothetical, so we'll play the hypothetical game, without a venue like Widener Field, do you think that we're able to get an event like this?
I wouldn't say no to anything. Right. I'm ever the optimist, so there's always worth a try. In this case, Widener Field is definitely the perfect venue for the event. So it all fell into place, and the great partners, both community and operations partners that came together, made this happen.
So as fans, what's the timeline now? When can we get tickets? When is this event going to go on? Give us all those details, Rains.
Yeah, so we'll definitely announce once we have our timeline for tickets ready to go, but it will be 7 full days of events. So starting October 4th to October 10th, we'll have games throughout each day, and tickets will be available to come and watch them. And Team USA will be playing, so I know that'll definitely be a popular one, and we'll make sure the tickets are announced for that.
Well, we look forward to that. I want to ask you a bigger picture question, because yes, this is a step towards the Olympics, and we're Olympic City, USA, but you know this as well as anyone, Rands, that it's not just Olympic events that are coming through Colorado Springs. It's all sorts of different sporting events, whether it's at the high school ranks, the collegiate ranks, whatever it might be. As you have conversations with, you know, different entities and stuff, what is it about Colorado Springs that allows us to draw so many, not just, again, Olympic events, but all different kinds of sporting events to come to Colorado Springs? What is it about our city that makes it so attractive?
Yeah, well, our city, our brand as Olympic City USA, a lot goes into that. So it is both the sports, but it's also the community, being able to rally the community so that we have volunteers that can help these events going on, the community partners, not we have our national governing bodies, as well as those venues who are willing and open to partner with us to be able to host all of these different types of sporting events. So it's everyone coming together to make this happen and really embodying that Olympic City USA spirit.
That's awesome. Anything else, since I have you, we want to get the inside info.
Yeah.
Anything else coming down the pipeline anytime soon? You don't have to tell me what it is. I just want the excitement of maybe there's something else on the horizon. I know you guys are always working to bring big time events here. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say 2027 is just looking like an incredible year. And then we're here to support 2028 Olympics as well. If you're interested in local events, this year itself, we do have Labor Day Liftoff coming up next weekend at Memorial Park. So super excited. That's our hot air balloon event. And then the Pikes Peak Regional Air Show is later this month, September 19th to 20th. So there's a lot going on. Definitely more to look forward to as well. And just a lot of excitement to keep the momentum going.
Absolutely. And Labor Day Liftoff. If you're maybe new to the area or you usually are traveling for Labor Day weekend, definitely go check out the Labor Day Liftoff. It is a unique event, maybe not a sporting event, but a unique event, and just unbelievable to see all those hot air balloons going off at the same time. So check that out next weekend. The air show is equally breathtaking coming up in the month of September, and we'll keep our ear to the ground and see what else you guys come up with. Rands, really appreciate the time. Congratulations on the announcement, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yep, my pleasure. That is Rands Kiesler from the Colorado Springs Sports Corporation. So think about that. The qualifier for the Olympics in lacrosse is going to be played in downtown Colorado Springs at Widener Field. That's a big get. And not, we know all these, the hill climb and the air show and, some of these other events. There was the on a local level, the high school event that was just announced the other day, where there will be one boys tackle football game and one girls flag football game to kind of kick off the season. So we're always getting these really cool events. It's not, we have the Switchbacks as our professional team. We have Air Force, we have Colorado College, but we don't have one of the four majors. And yet we make up for it with all these other really cool events. So that'll be awesome. I'll be there. I can tell you that much. Again, it's the 2027. So remember, the Olympics are in 2028. I know, but 2027 World Lacrosse Sixes Championships will be held at Widener Field October 4th through the 10th of 2027. So we're a little bit more than a year away. There's a lot of prep that goes into it, but just go ahead and flip forward in your calendar and mark October 4th through the 10th on there. That's going to be awesome. And I found this cool, and I am a fan of the sport of lacrosse as well. So this makes me extra excited. But a quote from the World Lacrosse CEO: Colorado Springs also offers a passionate and rapidly growing lacrosse community. And if you're in that lacrosse community, you know just how much that sport has grown, and it's only going to grow more. Right? Now that it's back in the Olympics, it's only going to grow more from here. And girls flag football is another one. One of the nice things about hosting the Olympics is you could pick a couple of sports, and we got flag football, just in general, obviously men's and women's, and then you got lacrosse as well. First time in 100 years, as Rand said. So that's cool. Good job. Good job, everyone involved. I was not involved. I have nothing to do with this, but I will support it, and I will be there for sure. All right, let's pivot to the other NHL story of the day. So I talked about Cale Makar. An extension is imminent, and according to Elliot Friedman, it's going to be a biggie. So that's all good news, right? Excited to have Cale in a Colorado Avalanche sweater for years to come. But today also we are reminded of the state of affairs in the NHL, especially regarding a particular set of players who just so happen to all play for the same team this winter. Connor Hellebuyck, Winnipeg Jets goalie, today took to social media to say that, yeah, you know how there were rumors that I wanted out? Yeah, I want out now. So Connor Hellebuyck becomes the next member of Team USA to officially request a trade. The Winnipeg Jets answered back with a statement that you would expect them to have. We appreciate Connor Hellebuyck and we appreciate his wants and desires, but we're going to do what's best for the team. That kind of a thing. I think it ended with no new developments. Basically, we're not trading him right now. Right? So you could say it's what's best for the team. You could say that there's no new info. Basically, they're saying, like, this is not going to be the thing that has Connor Hellebuyck getting traded in the next 48 hours. Because Winnipeg has a blueprint in Detroit, and all you need to do is fire your general manager, and everything will be fine. But no, Detroit's holding the line on Dylan Larkin, except they did whatever. He stepped down, whatever you want to call it. Steve Yzerman is not the GM anymore. So, but Dylan Larkin's still on the Red Wings, and I would expect the Jets to play hardball here with Connor Hellebuyck, who, I mean, we remember a couple of years ago, he was the MVP of the league. He helped Winnipeg win the President's Trophy, get out to a historic start. I know last year was a down year, and teams that are interested in Hellebuyck should keep that in mind, right? But the fact of the matter is there's only maybe a handful of goalies that are those true franchise goaltenders. Everybody else, including the Colorado Avalanche, it's two guys. With Winnipeg and Connor Hellebuyck, it's been one guy. And one guy who's been the best at what he does in the world and cemented that legacy by helping the United States win a gold medal in the Olympics. So the asking price is going to be and should be high for Connor Hellebuyck, but the bidders, the interested parties at least, should be numerous. And to me, including the Colorado Avalanche. And I know that there's no way that the Avs, they have like no picks anymore. They have zero draft capital. Okay? But Joe Sakic should be looking at Connor Hellebuyck and saying, wait a minute, I can tie everything on my team together. And we like Mackenzie Blackwood, and Scott Wedgwood was really good for us last year. But this is Connor Hellebuyck we're talking about. And we still have that defensive foundation with arguably the best blue line in the NHL in Cale Makar and Devon Taves. Could you imagine what Connor Hellebuyck could be with the Colorado Avalanche? So the Avalanche have to call. You just have to. Every team has to call. There's no team in the NHL has a better goaltender than Connor Hellebuyck. Everybody has to call. Everyone has to explore this. As a realistic landing spot for Connor Hellebuyck, like, I think it's very difficult for the Avs to put together a compelling offer. But to my point, there were rumors this summer that the Colorado Avalanche discussed making a play for Connor Hellebuyck. So I'm not, out on a limb here and being the crazy guy that wants the Avalanche to give up on what has been a good thing, but I would argue could become a great thing with Connor Hellebuyck in between the pipes for the Colorado Avalanche. Joe Sakic's been thinking about this. So the Avalanche are absolutely going to explore it. I just don't think that they can put together a package without blowing up their team. And let's not forget, they were one series away from going to the Stanley Cup final. We like this team. We don't want it blown up. Hellebuck is better than Wedgwood or Mackenzie Blackwood, but if it's going to cost you all of this other stuff, you got to think about that. So I don't expect the Colorado Avalanche to be able to put together a package compelling enough for Winnipeg to say yes. And oh, by the way, the Avalanche have the great disadvantage of being located in the same division as Winnipeg. That's going to make it even less likely that Winnipeg deals him to Colorado. But this has to be something that once that imminent Cale Makar extension happens, pick up the phone and see what it's going to take. You got to do your due diligence. He wants out. And we have seen, stay tuned for what happened in Detroit, happening in Detroit. But if the Red Wings hang on to Dylan Larkin, he would be the first of these Team USA guys to not get what he wants. And it started with Matthew Tkachuk, and now it's Brady, Quinn Hughes. So, is everything peachy in Detroit? I don't think that it is. But I think that the Red Wings offered up a sacrifice to try and placate Dylan Larkin, and we'll see if it ultimately works out. I feel like he'll be on the Red Wings roster opening night. But this team stubs their toe out of the gate. Dylan Larkin's not going to care who the general manager is. He's going to want out. And that's the thing. I don't have a problem necessarily with these Team USA guys getting a taste of what it's like to win and play with other talented players and decide, you know what, the place that I'm in doesn't really give me that opportunity. I want to go somewhere else. I don't fault them for that. I don't criticize them for that. It's the next step beyond that, what you're willing to do. It's the I want to go to Florida or Vegas of it all. That I'm like, wait a minute. And it's the same with all these NBA guys. We've been doing it for years with the NBA. Like, you want to get out of a bad situation to a good situation. That's being the competitor in you. That's wanting to win. And we hold winners, to the highest standard, right? We were talking about the yeah, but stuff last hour with Josh Allen. Yeah, but he hasn't won a title, right? Ring culture, whatever you want to call it. We have to understand that these are monsters of our own making because we put so much stock in winning. But there's a step beyond that, which is I just want to be in a better situation to I want to go play with specifically this guy in this city, in this tax situation. That's what bothers me, and that's what I think bothers most people. You can understand that great players in a bad situation want to go to a better situation. But Buffalo's a good situation. New Jersey's a good situation. It doesn't have to be Vegas or Florida. So we'll see if that list inevitably comes out. If Connor Hellebuck wants to go, I understand it. But if you're going to shoehorn Winnipeg into two places, that's not fair. Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, if you're streaming the show on the apps of those two stations, or you're watching the show anywhere you scroll. If you want to get in touch with the program, which is me, I am the program. You could call or text in at 719-247-1313, or you could reach out via social media. I'm at Gingerly Tweets on X and at GingeWatch on Instagram and Threads. Perhaps you have a thought or two on the three stories that are driving the show today. Yes, they are. Let's start with story number one.
I do think he just is what he is at this point. He looks like the same quarterback he was in college. I watched every one of his snaps at Oregon. He looks exactly the same guy in Denver. He's consistent, right? He's not going to make mistakes, as coach said, but he's not going to push the ball down the field all that often.
That was Jeff Schwartz on FS1's First Things First, and he has caused quite the little firestorm on social media over those comments. A tweet went out with the video with that quote, what you just heard. Not only was that tweet community noted to say that no one has thrown more touchdowns of 20 or more yards than Bo Nix, but Sean Payton, the head coach of said Denver Broncos, took to social media to reply to the tweet and say, you could tell which one, what did he say? Which ones work at it and which ones don't? Let me get the official quote up here. I should have it. That is bad on me. Always easy to tell who works at it and who doesn't. And it's important for me to get that right because I feel like Jeff Schwartz has been done a disservice by his own social media team. Let me get two pieces of audio here for what's driving the show and present Jeff Schwartz's full comments, which paint a much bigger picture about his feelings of Bo Nix and are not so clickbaity.
I do think he just is what he is at this point. He looks like the same quarterback he was in college. I watched every one of his snaps at Oregon. He looks exactly the same guy in Denver. He's consistent, right? He's not going to make mistakes, as coach said, but he's not going to push the ball down the field all that often, right? We know his air yards was short. His sort of advanced stats kind of put him right in the middle of the NFL. He gets a bump up because he can run the ball, which is great in certain situations for them. Sean Payton needs to get him to throw the ball in between the hashes. I think he was fifth worst in the NFL, just completion percentage in the middle of the hashes. Like there's things to work on, but the sort of the issues that, not issues the wrong word to say, it's what he was in college.
I think that changes things a little bit, doesn't it? Because the part right after that, where he says his air yards aren't that big, he's right. Bo Nix was 22nd in the league in attempted air yards. Even worse, he was 30th in completed air yards. Despite being the quarterback who led the league in attempts. No one threw the ball more in 2025 than Bo Nix. So actually, with the proper context around it, Jeff Schwartz is right. And really, the byproduct, what caused him to have the most 20-yard touchdown throws or more is because he simply throws the ball more than anybody else. The rate at which he throws the ball downfield is actually not commensurate with the fact that he attempted more passes than anybody else. So yes, if Sean Payton takes it and just ends it at where I ended it, he does push the ball downfield. That's not true. But there's more context. What Jeff Schwartz said there is absolutely right. No one threw the ball more than Bo Nix last year, yet he was 22nd in intended air yards, 30th in completed air yards. He was 23rd in completion percentage, and he was not among the top 15 quarterbacks in the league when it comes to completion over expected. The passing game, and you know this to be true because you've been dying for the Broncos to throw the deep ball more. Did I miss that? Hasn't that been a conversation? You want Bo Nix to air it out more. Why? Because the passing game was extremely conservative last year. They threw the ball a lot, but they didn't throw it downfield as much as you would like. The bigger point that Jeff Schwartz is making is not that everyone's seizing on the downfield throw stuff. The better point, the bigger point, the point that Jeff Schwartz is bringing up is that Bo Nix from year 1 to year 2 did not see much of a change. In fact, if you want to split hairs about it, Bo Nix was statistically inferior this past year to what he was during his rookie season. But he was very similar from his rookie year to his second year, which is very similar to what, as Jeff Schwartz is saying, he was in college. And this is the point that I have been trying to drive home for weeks now. Part of the reason why Sean Payton wanted Bo Nix is because there wasn't that much extrapolation, right? He didn't have to guess. He didn't have to project. He knew that what he was seeing at Oregon was what he was going to get. And he said, I can win with that guy. And you know what? Back-to-back years, they have. But what this is about is that it's not good enough to say that Bo Nix is good enough. He has to be great. You have to, and that's not me saying it. That's what the masses are saying. It's not enough that we could just say, well, he's basically from year 1 to year 2, the same guy, and don't expect him to take a big jump in year 3. But yet the Broncos still win with that. That's not good enough. Bo Nix also has to be the universe's gift to quarterbacking, and he has to be the best. He's not. And while Jalen Waddle's addition is, I think, going to help Bo Nix's numbers maybe go back to what they were during his rookie year, and we'll see an uptick in his numbers from year 2 to year 3, it's not going to be a big jump, and that big jump is necessary for Bo Nix to be in the conversation of the best quarterbacks in the league. I did this the other day. At best, he's the 7th best quarterback in the AFC, and we're not even throwing in anybody from the other side. Bo Nix is who he is for all intents and purposes. And that has been good enough for the Denver Broncos to go to the playoffs back-to-back years and go to the AFC Championship last year. And it's going to be good enough for the Denver Broncos to compete for the playoffs this year. But as I've been saying, the room is more crowded now. Mahomes is back. Lamar is back. Burrow is back. Josh Allen remains. Drake May is here. The room is more crowded, and when you start to handpick your guys, Bo Nix is down on the list. But the Broncos have so much else going for it. It should be good enough that Bo Nix is good, not great. Now, when he gets his second contract, he may need to be great and not just good. But for right now, the Broncos have accomplished almost everything they've set out to do, or realistically they could have accomplished, with Bo Nix being this level of quarterback. Maybe they need more for them to win a Super Bowl. I don't think there is more. I agree with Jeff Schwartz. Story number 2. Somebody who is elite is the subject of said story.
Nathan McKinnon with 14. Now Cale McCarr sees an opening. McCarr cuts to the middle. McCarr, he scores! Oh, hail
Altitude Radio on the call, as heard on Extra Sports 1300. You're going to be hearing that for a while because reports come out today that the Avalanche are very close to announcing an extension with Cale Makar. Now, what is not up for debate is whether Cale Makar is going to be the highest paid defenseman in NHL history when he signs this extension, because he absolutely will be. That number is $12.5 million a year. The question is he going to be the highest paid player in NHL history? His yearly salary would have to start with the 2, as in $20+ million. I believe that Cale is going to sign for less than that. But if he wants to sign for $20+ million and become the highest paid player in the NHL, he can do that. He deserves that, because what we found out in the Western Conference Final is the most important player on the Colorado Avalanche, and by extension, maybe in the NHL, is Cale Makar. So they need to pay him whatever he's asking for. I think Cale, because of the precedent that Nathan McKinnon set and Gabriel Landeskog have said over the years, and he's tight with those guys, I think he's going to be looking to take a little bit less than he could. But the important thing is Cale Makar is expected to be in an Avs sweater for the foreseeable future. And now we just need to find out, will it be 7 years, 8 years, 6 years? And will it be teens of millions of dollars? Or will it be surpassing $20 million a year? Either way, you get to have Cale Makar in an Avalanche sweater for years to come. Story number 3, announcement today that we here in Colorado Springs are getting the 2027 World Lacrosse Sixes Championships. They're going to be held in October of next year at Widener Field, the home of the Switchbacks. And what this event is the qualifier for the Olympics. Lacrosse is back in the Olympics for the first time in 100 years. Shouts to Jim Thorpe. And Jim Brown. Both very famous lacrosse players from back in the day. But now the sport's going to be in the Olympics for the first time in 100 years. And this is the stepping stone. The teams that are competing, it will be 16 men's teams, 6 women's, 16 men's teams, 16 women's teams. The qualifiers for those will go to LA in 2028. That is as big of an event as we have maybe had in Colorado Springs, to have an actual Olympic qualifier for this sport that's back in the Olympics. So that's something to look forward to. October 4th through the 10th, 2027. And as the World Lacrosse mentioned today in the press conference, the sport of lacrosse is growing maybe exponentially in popularity in this state, let alone this city. So I know a lot of people are going to be very excited to have the highest level of lacrosse you can get on planet Earth being played in downtown Colorado Springs in a little more than a year. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. Now let's turn to what's going on in the world of finance. For that, I turn to Rick Stevens of FRS Financial Group. He gives us his daily RBG report. It's Rick's best guess. Rick, what have you got for us today?
Well, today, Ryan, the U.S. equity markets rose as investors were actually satisfied with the AI chip maker NVIDIA's earnings report after the bell yesterday. Tech giant reported quarterly revenues that more than doubled revenue from the previous year, and their projected 70% revenue growth for fiscal year 2028 was also well above analyst estimates. NVIDIA shares were up more than 7% on the day. Now, tomorrow we hear from Fed Chair Kevin Warsh at the Jackson Hole Symposium. That's where today's RBG continues to come in. Don't expect much to be given on the Fed's intentions on a September rate hike, but your RBG tells you that the odds are in favor of rates remaining steady. That is our RBG report for the day.
Appreciate it, Rick. That's Rick Stevens of FRS Financial Group right here in Colorado Springs. Start planning your future today at frsfinancialgroup.com.
Products and investment services offered through LPL Financial LLC. Member FINRA SIPC. FRS Financial Group is a name used by independent advisors associated with LPL Financial LLC.
Coming up next, one of the big wishes of Broncos fans this season is that Davis Webb will stick with the run. Does his preseason track record so far say that he is? That's next. Your perfect frozen treat is at I Top It. Mix and match from dozens of flavors and toppings to create your dream dessert. Whether it's a family outing, date night treat, or reward after a long day, our sweet deal of the week, well, it makes it even sweeter. Get $50 worth of terrific frozen yogurt from I Top It for just $25. That is 50% off, people. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., the deal goes on sale. Extrasports1300.com and KVOR.com. Quick text, and then we'll talk about the Broncos run game. This coming in from Brett regarding Cale Makar's imminent contract extension. Asked, do you think Cale Makar in the future, after he signs his contract, will be standing in Walmart contemplating buying something and saying to himself, dang, I only make $17 million a year. If only I made $22 million a year, I could afford that. No, I don't think he will, and I don't expect Cale Makar to ever find himself in a Walmart. But point made, and it's one of the things that we always, think about these athletes when they sign these deals. Like, is it that big of a difference to you? Right? Millions and millions of dollars, money that we cannot comprehend what one does. But hearing from so many athletes, especially NBA and NFL players lately, you would think that money doesn't go far enough. But we wonder this, like, can't you just take a little bit less to help the team, for the team? But on the other hand, you have the Makar family. And does the Cale Makar family say, take the 22? I mean, the answer to your question is no. He will never go wanting. His family will not go wanting for anything, whether he gets $17 or $20 million. But he is a part of a union, right? So there's some thought about the defensemen that come after him. He's going to set the market, and he's going to set it by a wide margin. So he's got to think about the team, his family, union, and I'm not saying they're all on the same level, but they're all considerations. And also there's something to be said for getting paid what you're worth. I know professional athletes don't deal with this, but it's certainly something that we can understand in the real world, right? People not getting paid what they're worth. Cale Makar's worth it. And I'll take it to another Colorado athlete that's set to be paid many, many monies coming up soon. I've thrown this out there multiple times. No one's bid on it. Is there any part of anyone that wishes that Nikola Jokic would save the Nuggets some money? They're trying to nickel and dime their way out of the, second apron and making all these moves that aren't actually improving the team one bit just to get out of that second apron. Nikola Jokic should just wave his hand, take a couple million less a year, and the Nuggets would be out of that. And every time I've brought this up, I haven't had one person say, you know what, Ryan, I'm with you. And I'm not even saying that you have to criticize Nikola Jokic for taking every dime that he can from the Denver Nuggets. But isn't there a part of you that at least hopes he doesn't? Because I'll tell you, there is a part of me that wishes that. Now, soon, quickly thereafter, that part of me is overtaken by my rage over the mismanagement of Nikola Jokic's prime by the Denver Nuggets. So then I'm back to, take them for every penny you can, Nikola Jokic. But don't we all hope that every player on our favorite teams takes a little bit less. If everybody takes a little bit less, all of a sudden, maybe that's one more star player they can add. It's okay for some part of you to wish that Cale Makar would take a little bit less or Nikola Jokic would take a little bit less, as long as you don't say they have to. They don't have to. And that's Ryan's point on the text line. I'm never going to fault an athlete for trying to get their money. I've never been in that scenario. I can't say how I would feel to take less money. And we all understand that. But when we're talking about a team sport, which is different, you know, sometimes we try to make real world comparisons, as I kind of just did with sports, but sometimes it's not the real world. Okay? This is about putting together a team capable of winning a championship, which is not only our goal as fans or our desire as fans, it's also supposedly the players as well. You know, in the real world, I think many of us are in a situation where we get as much as we can. It's not as much as corporate America wants to say we're all part of a team and everything like that. No, we kind of look out for ours. We get what we're worth and we get what we think we can take care of our families with. And it's not just the amount of money in professional sports that provides a disconnect and shows that it's, you know, sports isn't the real world, but it's also this collective team goal that we have in sports to where it's like, yeah, it'd be nice if everybody took a little bit less to contribute to the greater good. But I'm with Ryan. Like, I'm never going to begrudge a player for getting as much as they can and getting what they are worth. I never do that. I think that's a step too far. But on the other hand, you have a Tom Brady who is viewed as a hero for taking less money than he could have gotten from the New England Patriots to sustain their championship window, their dynasty. So that's the way I do it. If Cale Makar and Nikola Jokic want to take every dime that they are worth, you earned it. Good job by you. But if you're willing to take a little bit less, then I will sing your praises. That's always the way that I have looked at it. But it is, to Brett's point, it is funny money. Like, we just go, what's a few mil? But athletes will answer, you know, I only have so long to maximize my how much I make and everything. It's all fair. It's all fair. And there's a disconnect, but sometimes between the real world and professional sports. Cale Makar can get every dollar he wants. And he deserves every dollar that the Avalanche give him. Whatever that number is, he deserves it. But it would be awesome if he took a little bit less. Both things can be true. So we'll see what Cale Makar's extension looks like. Jokic's, you got to wait a while, as you well know. Let's get back to the Broncos here. Some I'm keeping an eye on, as you know, very closely, and will be tomorrow night. Davis Webb as a play caller. The run game. Right? The run game is something we want. The deep, you know, Broncos fans want the deep passing game. Certainly. But they also want more of a commitment to the run than what Sean Payton had. And those two things can exist via the play action pass. Right? They can coexist. You can want more explosive plays down the field in the passing game while also more of a commitment to the run game. So I've been keeping an eye out here on what Davis Webb has been doing. And I even went back to last year when he was calling plays in that Arizona game. And I'm noticing something. I'm noticing the run rate going down and the effectiveness of those run plays going down. Now, there is certainly a reason for that before you even get to Davis Webb's abandoning the run. Each one of these games, interestingly enough, it never goes this way in a straight trend up or a straight trend down. The Denver Broncos in the 3 preseason games where Davis Webb has been the play caller on the offensive side of the football have gotten worse. Their numbers are worse. Let me clear that up. Their numbers are worse. The Cardinal game, nothing went wrong. Atlanta was a great game, and Green Bay was a struggle. So the numbers are going down. The Broncos' results in those games are going down. So when I see that he ran the ball 17 fewer times against Green Bay, I go, wait, is he abandoning the run? Is he giving up on it? Then you look at the scoreboard and you'd be like, if this was a regular game, would you want the Broncos, who are trailing by 20, to stick with the run? Plus, the Broncos ran fewer plays against the Packers than they did the Falcons. The Falcons, they ran it 39 times, passed it 29 for a 57% run rate. Packers, they only had 48 total plays on offense. 22 rushes, 26 pass attempts. That ratio got flipped because the Broncos were losing, and the run rate did end up going down by 11%. So right now, you could chalk this up to the Broncos' results being worse in these games, being the reason why Davis Webb has had to go away from the run. And it's still a small sample size, so that would be a fair thing. But the fact of the matter is the success rate in the run is going down for the Denver Broncos as well. And herein lies the crux of it all. Sean Payton at times did not stick with the run. It seemed like he went away from the run as soon as it didn't work. What we are really asking from Davis Webb is to not do that. Right? Have there be enough evidence to say this isn't working for us at all and will not work. It felt like on numerous occasions, Sean Payton, the minute they would get stopped for a loss on first down, he was like, to heck with this, we're just going to throw the ball some more. We want, I think the Broncos not forget what we want, but let's go beyond what we want. What's best for the Denver Broncos? What's better for the Denver Broncos is that Davis Webb sticks it out a little bit more with the run game than Sean Payton did. Now, there is a point, and that's part of the nuance of being an offensive coordinator and a play caller. You got to know where that tipping point is. You got to know where that time is where you go, okay, we got to give up on the run. It's not going to work. It hasn't worked, or the scoreboard dictates it. That's going to be one of the things with Davis Webb. I don't think Davis Webb is going to be a 180 from Sean Payton and all of a sudden it's ground and pound and 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Davis Webb is going to want Bo Nix to sling the ball around. And given the pushback I have received on my assertion that Bo Nix is not an elite quarterback, you seem to think that the best path forward for the Denver Broncos is for Bo Nix to sling it around. But that can happen. It could still be a pass-first offense. It still could be Bo Nix among the league leaders in pass attempts and still more commitment to the run game than Sean Payton showed. Bo Nix threw the most passes of anyone in the league last year. For a coach that would repeatedly say that he needs to run the football, and yet his quarterback threw it more than anybody else. Something's off about that. And by the end of the year, I said, you know what? Sean Payton's not committed to the run game. He's just not. He doesn't want to be. He says he wants to be. He's not. And he doesn't want to be. Does Davis Webb show a little bit more commitment? Right now, it looks like he's being less and less committed to the run game as we get closer to the season. Tomorrow night will be interesting in that regard. And then we'll get to the regular season and we'll really judge Davis Webb as a play caller. But right now, it could be just that the game flow dictated that the Broncos run the ball less. But it's just something to keep in the back of your mind, that the run rate and the effectiveness of the run, which may be more alarming than the run rate, is the fact that the Broncos are having less good fortune running the football game to game to game. But the run is going down. That's my point. The run is going down over these 3 games that Davis Webb has been the play caller. Will it go back up against Minnesota? And ultimately, will it go back up for the Kansas City game week 1 and beyond? 719-247-1313. We'll take one last break, come back, and wrap up the show. So I talked about earlier how it's getting about time that we get a resolution with Jonathan Cooper. Due back in court on Monday. Cut down day is Sunday. And the NFL is trying to clear this backlog of bad behavior. And bad behavior is an understatement. Assault is a more accurate term to use when it comes to Josh Jacobs, Puka Nacua, and Jonathan Cooper. Josh Jacobs has not been disciplined by the NFL yet, but he has formally been charged with 2 misdemeanors: misdemeanor battery and misdemeanor criminal damage to property. If he is convicted, that's 18 months in prison. Okay, why do I bring that up? I bring that up because that is 2 misdemeanor charges. 2 misdemeanor charges that I believe Jonathan Cooper also has. And then Jonathan Cooper also is facing a felony assault by strangulation. So if he's convicted, it's going to be a lot more than 18 months. But what I found interesting here about the reporting today is what led to Josh Jacobs of the Green Bay Packers getting formally charged here is footage, right? Everybody has cameras now in their homes, Ring doorbells, all this kind of stuff. There was footage that showed that his significant other's account of the events were more accurate than his. And we're seeing this with Jonathan Cooper, that even Jonathan Cooper himself is admitting that the initial story he gave, account of the events he gave authorities, was not completely accurate. And then when he had a do-over, after he got arrested for violating a protection order, his account of events sounded very similar to hers, which brought on these charges in the first place. So all we have is kind of the barometer for what maybe Jonathan Cooper is facing from a legal perspective on this versus NFL. But now the NFL has Josh Jacobs formally charged. They have that now. Were they waiting on that to render their decision on his status for the upcoming season? Because the backlog starts with him, and it's Puka Nacua, and it's Jonathan Cooper. Now, they may all, even though that's the order, they may come down on all of those guys in one foul swoop. But that's unfortunately going week 1 availability after this next round of preseason games is going to be the big topic of conversation. I already discussed on today's show Patrick Mahomes and his status, but that's not due to what Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Cooper, and Puka Nacua are facing. But we're going to be starting to talk about who's available for week 1. And there's a decent chance that Josh Jacobs, Puka Nacua, and Jonathan Cooper are not available for their teams week 1. In fact, there is a Broncos-Rams game within the first month of the season that may not have Jonathan Cooper or Puka Nacua. So we will wait and see, along with Sean Payton. Because Sean Payton believes that you'll find out the same time he does. But Josh Jacobs charged today with misdemeanor battery and misdemeanor criminal damage to property. And those charges came 3 months after he was arrested. Chargers didn't take that long with Jonathan Cooper. So, one of the sides of the NFL that we don't love discussing, but it does impact things certainly for their respective teams. And then it brings up the obvious question of, should Green Bay stand by Josh Jacobs? Should LA stand behind Puka Nacua? And should the Denver Broncos stand behind Jonathan Cooper? I think most people would say no, because they understand that this is bigger than, competing for a Super Bowl. It's the fact that all three of these men assaulted people and are being criminally charged with assault. And there's a real world aspect to this that should trump anything about a football game. But you don't run the billion-dollar organization. Your job is not on the line if this next Broncos, Packers, or Rams season goes awry, because they took a hardline stance, took a moral stand against Josh Jacobs, Puka Nacua, and Jonathan Cooper. And that's always the disconnect here. You and I can sit here and it's not grandstanding. It's not virtue signaling. I mean, assault of any kind is wrong, especially against women. So we can all agree on this. This is not us trying to take a high moral ground. This should be common sense. This is common human decency we're talking about here. But I can also acknowledge it's much easier for me to say that than it is for these teams that have millions and billions of dollars at stake here to say it. I'm not saying that should mean they stand by these guys. I'm just acknowledging that the decision is slightly more difficult for their teams as opposed to you and I. Uncomfortable truth, maybe, but it's the truth. It is more difficult. See where that goes. Saved your last text, Brett, so we could end on a better note than that. Back to the Kale thing. Brett's full of ideas, full of great ways to help get Kale McCarr paid, but also help the Avalanche win by saying maybe Kale should sign a Bobby Bonilla contract. That is not what we call it anymore. We don't call it that. We call it Shohei Ohtani contract now. Times have changed. Shohei Ohtani is the new face of deferred money. If I ever saw Stan Kroenke sign that kind of a deal to defer money, I would faint on the spot. This does not, these deferred monies does not seem to jive with who Stan Kroenke is. Stan Kroenke is not good with paying guys who aren't playing for the team. So whatever they're going to pay, they're going to pay it. They're not going to defer it. And every year, we can all celebrate together. It's Cale McCarr Day. He gets another $1 million from the Kroenke Sports Empire. That's never going to happen. I also don't think that these deferred contracts are commonplace in the NHL. They weren't commonplace in Major League Baseball. That's why we've celebrated Bobby Bonilla Day for all these years. There's no one else to take that mantle. And now Ohtani has come along. I think along with about 5 other Dodger players, and we're going to be celebrating that they got another mill from the LA Dodgers for years to come. But that's not one of the rules of the Kroenke Sports Empire. I'll end it here. I started, going to Game Day Men's Health, and I've been telling you about this for a while, because simply just wanted more energy throughout the day, better night's sleep, kind of just 1 or 2 things. And they've made a huge difference. So I said, okay, now let me look at the bigger picture. Now I'm focused on taking the next step by getting into better shape, building healthier habits that will benefit me for years to come, because this is one of the last decades I have where I can really get myself right for my later years. So I did a full body scan at Game Day Men's Health. They showed me all the areas where I'm doing well, where I could be doing better. And I sat down with Nikki, put together a personalized plan that combines the right treatments along with fitness and nutrition goals to help optimize my health. So whether it's just one thing that you want help with, or maybe a whole lifestyle change, Game Day Men's Health can help you. Book your appointment, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Game Day Men's Health, a men's health clinic built for every journey. Have a good night. We'll chat tomorrow.